Okay, and so before we get into the fun stuff, the smart money stuff, Lacey, can you tell it? We got a lot of really fun things coming up for our Synergy group, and so we just want to make a quick shout out to those things and what they are.
Yeah, we've got a few things coming up, and you're going to notice in the chat, I've put some helpful links in case you'd like to copy and paste this and keep this on hand. These are links to, number one, our Facebook page, which is the best place to go to see all upcoming events. And there's some links in there for those events that we have every scheduled, like Power 30 and EXP Explained every week or every other week. So those are some helpful links. And one of the links that I sent you is our Facebook page. And that is what I want to show you really fast of what's coming up. So we have, of course, EXP Actually Explained. It's every Tuesday at noon, and it is now virtual. So come if you need to hear the message again. There's so much information, it never hurts to hear it again. And of course, invite any agents in learning about the model. Today we've got Smart Money right now. Next week we have Elizabeth Riley on our Power 30. She's an EXP agent in Austin, Texas. She sounds amazing. She sounds wonderful, actually. I think you'll really love that. And we actually have Pam being our host for Elizabeth Riley next week. She'll be stepping in for Jody. Then on September 17th, we've got another Realtor Toolbox series. This one, I won't go into it because I don't want to lose my screen here, but it's called Killer Strategies for FSBOs. Jody said that he built his business on FSBOs, and he's going to show you how he did that. So that'll be another Realtor Toolbox series on the 17th. Then on the 22nd, we actually have Power 30 with our very own Pam Jungi. She's going to share with us her tips for success. And then she's also going to be telling us about this event right here, which is on October 6th. It's going to be a community service day. She's going to have a lot more information about that event as well. Last couple of things, we've got Sean Kokozaka. I don't know how to say his last name, but he comes highly recommended from Steve, actually. It took quite a feat to get him scheduled. So that's going to be an amazing Power 30. He evidently is amazing. He's a trainer. He is a multi-icon agent. He is a big deal. So that will be a great one. And then also we still have on our calendars a save the date for December 10th. We'll see how that goes, but it is on the calendar for now for our Synergy Summit / end of year get together.
We also just of late have confirmed that we are going to be able to do our virtual summit in the world, in the EXP world. Everybody who's a guest will be able to have their own avatar for that event, and that'll be October 8th. So we'll be adding that to the calendar. All right. Anything else before we jump in? All right, good. So let's just do a little quick review of what we talked about last night in Smart Money, the first workshop. So the first thing we talked about is the first thing we're going to talk about today, which is that I am not a certified financial planner. I do not have a securities license, so you cannot take what I'm telling you today as investment advice, because that would be a bad idea. That would be like somebody trying to sell a house without a real estate license. So I want to make it clear that that is not what I'm doing today. I happen to have a master's degree in finance, and I happen to really love the study of time value of money. And so that's really what we're going to be talking a little bit more about today. I want to just review a couple of things quickly that we discussed in our last workshop. Hopefully, if you weren't in that workshop, you've had a chance to review the video of that workshop, because we did record that. So my first question to you is, did you write out all of your income and all of your expenses? So I got the question last time of, well, what can we do? How can we put these principles into action? How do we apply these things? Well, I gave a few suggestions. I just want to see if any of you did these things, and if you didn't, I would encourage you to do them now. So the first thing you got to do is to list out what all of your incomes are and what all of your expenses are. And you got to be honest with yourself about what your expenses really are. So list them all out. That's the first step to really understanding what your own financial picture looks like and how you can start making goals to put money into the little magic money machine. Okay, the next question I want to ask is, do you have a way of keeping track of your finances? So we were just talking about this before starting, having some kind of like a household budgeting system, whether that's you keep track of your stuff in Excel, or you know, do the Dave Reichert method, which is where you just take receipts and put them in envelopes. That's a lot better than nothing, I will say, by the way. There are lots of online programs, you know, different apps you can get, things like that, but you can't really have control over your household finances if you don't have a way of keeping track of them. You'll really just be guessing. I was actually shocked to learn this because I couldn't even have fathomed not keeping track of the money coming in and the money going out of my own life. You know, this is like when I was back in college, and I had a college class that I took. It was an accounting class, and I don't remember exactly the numbers, but they gave us the percentage of people that actually keep track of their income and their expenses. So, hey, Lacey, can you reach out to Joe D offline? He's saying he can't get in. Can you help him get in? He's probably got the wrong link or something. So anyway, the percentage was super, super low of people that actually keep track of their expenses, and it shocked me. It was like something way lower than 20% of people. The next question is, did you go on to Amazon and purchase the book that I mentioned to you, Timeless Principles of Financial Security by Adam Dawson? I still very much recommend that book. It is a very good book. I thought that as a finance guy, when I read that book, it would be telling me things that I already knew. But turns out that, you know, and I wouldn't say there was like any huge things that I learned from reading the book, but I can tell you that for sure the way he lays it out there in the order he puts it just makes it very clear and simplified. In my mind, at least it did. So I found it to be very helpful. So it's really easy to attend a little workshop like this. It's really easy to get yourself all jazzed up about, oh, the power of the little magic money machine, and these are all the things I could do with all the money if I'm responsible with it, and I could retire at this age. It's great to do that stuff. But if you don't put these things into action, it's totally useless. And putting the things into action is actually very simple. We're not talking about big things, we're talking about small things. Write down all your expenses. That's not a huge thing. So ask yourself those questions. If you haven't done it yet, maybe set a calendar reminder for yourself in 1 week. Ask yourself those 3 questions. Did I write down all of my expenses and income? Do I have a way of keeping track of that going forward? And did I look up that book? I don't get paid any royalties or anything on that book. I just think it's a good one to share. So those are the 3 things I'd ask myself. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay. Hopefully you guys aren't hearing everything I'm hearing behind my door, because it is Grand Central Station in my house right now. Are you guys seeing my screen with the right here where it says true cost of debt? Okay, so this is something that we looked at last time. I just want to make it as a reminder. This little table shows you how much it really costs you to pay back debt. So in this case, we're talking about like a credit card debt. And this breaks it down by which tax bracket you're in. So let's say that you're in the 20, these are the income levels that are associated with each tax bracket. Let's say that you're in the 22% tax bracket. That means that every dollar you earn going forward, like every dollar you earn as of today, will get taxed at 22%. So when you earn the money, you have to pay your taxes. And then the national average for charitable contributions is 2.1%. So that's what it's showing in here. And that would be, in the case of earning $1.55, that would be 3 cents going to charity. And there's the 18% interest for the credit card debt. So in order to pay back $1 of debt, you'd have to earn $1.55 of income. And so then you'd pay your taxes, you'd contribute some of it to charity, you'd cover the interest, and that's how much you'd have left over is $1 to pay off that $1 of debt. So I'm bringing this up again because a lot of people don't understand the negative power of debt on their life, like the how much it's dragging down your future earning potential with the little magic money machine, because so much of what you're doing is going to pay for repaying debt. And you can see here that you'd have to earn $1.55 for every $1 of debt that you have. If you're in these higher tax brackets, it gets even worse. I mean, if you're earning $200,000 a year, then that tax burden is higher. You've got to earn $1.79 for every $1 of debt you're looking to pay back. Now, obviously, there's a lot of different variables and factors and stuff in this, but the principle is the same always, that paying back $1 of debt is not going to cost you $1. It's going to cost you something in excess of $1. And when you really stop to figure it out, it's a lot higher than you might think. Okay, let's also review this right here. This is a little table that shows the power of the little magic money machine. So you remember I asked you, what would you do if you had a little device, like maybe you've got a little device that looks sort of like your phone, and you slide $1 in this side, and outside of this, out of the other side comes something that exceeds $1. What would you do with that little magic money machine? So this shows you this is using the metrics, the actual numbers of how the magic money machine works. So let's say, for example, that I did a one-time investment of $1,000, and I'm assuming that I have an investment yield of 9%. Then what that means is that $1,000, if it comes out of the magic money machine after 1 year, that's how much it would be. If I'm patient and leave it in the little magic money machine, the machine is willing to pay me more than if I take it out after just 1 year. And so in that case, let's say I've left it in for 15 years. Now my $1,000 is worth $3,600. And let's say that I invested that $1,000 when I was 20, and now I'm 35 years later. Let's say now I'm 55. That $1,000 would be worth $20,000. So and the more I put in, obviously, the more I can get out later. So instead of, let's say when I was 20, instead of investing 1,000, I invested 5,000. That would be worth, when I'm 55, 102,000.
Wow.
So you can see that there's some real power in getting it in, get the money in and working in the little magic money machine. Now that's a one-time investment. What if I do that every year? Let's see what the power is of that. Let me make this a little bit bigger for everyone to be able to see it. Can you guys see that okay? So let's say that instead of starting at 20, I put in the $1,000 and I wait. Let's say instead of that, I do that every year. So every year I discipline myself as much as I can, and every year I put $1,000 into Little Magic Money Machine. So if I start that when I'm 20, then when I'm 55, I have $215,000. So you can see that there's power in feeding that machine as you go, right? And if you do that when you're 20 and you wait until you're 65 when you want to retire to start taking that out, putting in $1,000 each year would give you $525,000. So you can see the power of that. Now, one thing that I've done since then is I created this little tool right here that kind of does all this math for us in a simplified way. And we'll send this to you by email afterwards. So I don't know if we have anybody on the call who's as young as 20. So let's use 30. Okay. So let's say that you're a 30-year-old and you already have $15,000 invested. Okay. And let's say that you determine that you can invest another $500 per month starting today. Well, in 20 years, when you're 50 years old, then you will have, instead of 15,000, you will have 418,000. And so what this tool does is it lets you say, okay, if I start today doing this particular plan, what will that plan give me in the long run? And so I'm going to show you here practically what to do in a minute of how to kind of figure this out for yourself. You can use this tool here to kind of figure out for yourself what you want your plan to look like. So I did this recently with my two oldest kids. I have a daughter who is graduated high school. She's going to college. And so we said, okay, how much do you have now? And she has some money invested already. And we put in here that she's 18 years old. And she put a goal for herself of how much per month she's going to cover all of her expenses and have a certain amount that she's going to use to spend just for fun. And then she's going to have a certain amount that she's going to invest per month into the little magic money machine. So that amount that we determined for her right here, we only put in here in this, then when I'm blank years old, I'll have this much, because this number is going to change for her later. So what we said was, we started off with, okay, she's 18 years old now. And we said between now and when she's, I think we assumed 24 years old, she's going to be in college. So we put in from 18 to 24 years old, she's going to do a certain amount, this amount per month. Then we took that amount that she was going to have right here and we put it into this box, and we made this box be 24 because now she was going to do a new amount each month. And so we were able to map out basically we were able to kind of forecast for her whole life. She thinks that she's going to be able to do, I think it was like $200 a month starting now through the end of her college. And she's going to be adding that to what she already has. And then she's going to take what that will be when she's 24 years old. And by then she will have graduated college, and she believes that then she'll be employed and she'll be able to invest more each month. So we figured out kind of what her expenses might look like and what she could realistically achieve. And so then I think she's upped it to be $500 a month until she was 30, and then more until she was 35, and so forth and so on. And so we've kind of mapped out a little bit of a plan that she can always go back to and look at. Now, it never goes according to your forecast, but I can tell you if you don't forecast, it certainly won't go as good as you hope it will go. So make your forecast. And if you're already like old as dirt, make your forecast starting out old as dirt and getting to older than dirt, and figure out how much you're going to put away each month so that you might not be able to get to as far as you want because you don't have as much time on your side, but it's better than not putting together the forecast. All right, so before we talk about the specifics of that, let me just go to one more thing that I want to kind of talk through here. This is, can everybody see these different debts? So we're going to do a hypothetical scenario here, because this is a question I get all the time from people. And the answer is extremely simple, but the way we think about it in our daily lives, sometimes we either complicate it or we think it's not as simple as it really is. So let's just say that this is a hypothetical situation. This person has a mortgage balance of $102,000. They have an RC Willie charge account that has an $800 balance because they bought a couch with it. They have a credit card balance of $8,000, and they have an auto loan that they've mostly paid down that's now a $2,000 balance. Okay, so let's say that you know that debt on your system can be a downward force on your little magic money machine and your financial planning for the future. So let's say that you come into some money and you say to yourself, well, what should I do with this money? Should I invest that money? Should I buy the thing that I really need to buy? Should I pay down debt? Should I put it in the bank? What should I do with it? Okay, so let's say that you decide that you want to pay down debt. Okay, and let's say that you have $3,000 that you've come into this $3,000. Maybe you got a tax return you weren't expecting, something like that. So you've got $3,000. You're trying to decide what to do with it, and you've decided, I'm going to use this $3,000 to pay off debt. What debt should how should the person pay off debt here? What do you guys think? What do you think is the way to pay off the debt? Joe, did you raise your hand?
I did. Yeah, I was muted. You start with I think the smallest one. Get that out of the way.
I think it kind of depends on what you're. Sorry, Joe walked on you.
Apparently, Steve's going to take over the second half of my answer.
Sorry, I thought you were done.
It's called a dramatic pause, Steve.
Oh, sorry.
You might want to try it sometime.
Hey, Karen.
Ouch.
I'm not muted. So this way you can get the momentum going, have one thing paid off, take the little bit of money that you would have been splitting between the two, and then attack the next smallest one.
Okay.
That's
all right. So
I have another thought on that.
Yep, go ahead.
So I guess it depends on how disciplined you are, because if you've got a certain amount that you are budgeting towards paying debt, if you pay off the smallest one first and you decide that you're going to dedicate whatever that payment was that you were making on that one to paying off the next one, and you can snowball it. But the other way to look at that might be that you pay off the highest interest. I mean, there are two sides to this coin, and you could pay off the highest interest one or pay that down first because it's at 18%. If you have a 3% loan on your house, you wouldn't pay that down necessarily because the interest rate's too ridiculously low.
Okay, so you're touching around some of the things that I want to mention here, but let me restate a few of those things just to make it straight on point. So the majority of people believe the natural tendency, the natural human tendency is to do what Joe said, which is, well, I've got $3 grand. I'm going to get rid of the RC Willie balance and the auto loan because I can use the $3 grand and I can get rid of those two payments. And so if I can get rid of those two payments, then that's the smartest thing to do. Okay. Now there is a case that can be made for doing that. And Steve brought up a part of that case, which is, well, you can take the payments you were making on those two and you can make those payments towards something else. The math says that it will cost you the most in the long run unless you pay down the one with the highest interest rate. Okay, so ignore the balances for a second, ignore this column here, and let's look at just these ones. What you got to do here is you got to look at all of these dollars are enemies. Okay, each one of these debt dollars is a little enemy. The ones that are costing you the most, the dollars that are costing you the most, are the ones that have the highest interest rate associated with it. So if I said, well, I want to pay down my auto loan because I just want to get rid of that payment, then I'm getting rid of one of my lowest costing pieces of money. And so conventional wisdom says you pay the interest, you pay down the one with the highest interest rate because those are the ones that are costing you the most money. Okay, now if you do all this complicated math and you dedicate the payment of one to the next, then you have to factor in, well, how big is the payment of each? But remember that the size of the payment of each, only part of that size is a factor of interest rate. The other part is a factor of how many years is the loan amortized over? Where did you start out? Those kinds of things. What was your beginning balance? Like in a mortgage, your payment, you might have only $102,000 balance, but your payment might be huge because you've been paying down for a long time and you started off with a really high balance. And that would have caused your payment to be really high in the beginning. So what you should do in this case is just, if you're thinking in the simplest of terms, you should pay down the credit card balance, because that credit card balance is costing you by far more than your auto loan and your mortgage balance.
What about the airline miles?
The airline miles? Do you earn airline miles on the purchase or on the interest too?
Yeah,
I think it's just on what you purchased. I don't know, but I'm
yeah,
pretty
no,
sure.
you're right. You're right.
So, but look, the human tendency, and we'd all love it if we were so lucky as to get 3,000, right? So in this case, let's say somebody comes to me and says, look, here's my debts and I have $800 falling in my lap. I should pay off that RC Willie balance, right? It's not quite that straightforward, because that one's costing you quite a bit, but it's still costing you more for the credit card. So I would pay down the $800 on the credit card balance. So chip away on the one with the highest interest rate. As soon as that one's gone, start chipping away on the one with the next highest interest rate. Now, let's say that my balance on this one and this one was 0. So I only have this auto loan and this mortgage balance. And let's say that I come into some extra money. Let's say I've got $3,000 of money. Should I pay down debt? Should I put $2,000 towards my auto loan and $1,000 towards my mortgage balance?
Can I earn more than 4 or 5% on the money?
Okay, so there's the next question, right? Is like, okay, so the little magic money machine is paying me on average 8 or 9%, right? Now this is on average. This is the long-term average. In any one year, it can be way higher or way lower. I looked at the stock that I've earned from stock rewards from EXP, and I looked at my statement, and when I looked last, it was up 419%. So that's, in hindsight, it's easy to say, like, I put that into the little magic money machine just for fun, and let's just say it doesn't take many of those before you're retiring very quickly. But in the normal real world, we're talking about like an 8 or a 9% return. So I got $3,000. I can get that working for me in the little magic money machine. So that exceeds 4 or 5%. So should I do that? Is it always yes? In this case, we've made the answer yes. Is it always yes? It depends on your life circumstances, okay? So if you are at a stage of your life where you have income coming in and your credit is strong and you have access to money, then you might say, you know what, I'm gonna put that one into the little magic money machine. Or you might say, I know that I earn more on it in the magic money machine, but I really just want to get rid of my auto loan. There's some other factor. From a financial perspective only, speaking financially only, if you can earn more than it's costing you to borrow it, you do that. So I'm actually have this exact situation in my life right now. I am looking to sell my wife's car and buy her a different car. And so we're, I don't know why, but any car that can take a lot of kids in it is very, very expensive. And so the one that we're kind of looking at is like around between $50,000 and $60,000. So I'm asking myself, should I take $50,000 or $60,000 of my cash and just go negotiate and buy it from the seller? Or should I get a loan? Should I get a loan for the full amount? Should I get a loan for some of the amount? Should I take $30,000 of my money and get a loan for $25,000 or $30,000? What should I do there? So I'm asking myself all of these questions. And when I was asking myself this question a few years ago, so my daughter, who's now going to college, was just getting her driver's license a few years ago. And I was going to have her drive the 4Runner that I had been driving, which I bought from Steve, by the way. one of the best purchases I ever made. Great vehicle. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that.
I've still never forgiven you for that.
And so I was buying a vehicle for myself. And when I was doing that, I realized that the lowest interest rate I could get on that was going to be if I purchased my vehicle in the form of a lease. Now, in my house growing up, a lease was like the scarlet letter. You do not lease a vehicle, right? Like that was you never do that. And if you're doing the lease because you can buy more car for less of a payment, that would be the wrong reason to do a lease. If you're doing a lease because it's the lowest cost of money and you know you could have paid cash for that car, but you're going to use your money, you're going to leave your money in the little magic money machine, and instead you're going to use somebody else's money at a lower rate, then that might be a smart financial decision to make. The other thing that's really interesting that's kind of staring me in the face right now is that they have these two options on this vehicle I'm looking at. You can either have 0% financing at a certain purchase price, or they'll give you a bunch of rebates if you take their 5% interest rate. Now, what do you guys think about that? Should you take the higher purchase price at the 0% interest, or should you take the lower purchase price at the 5% interest?
I would go 0.
Okay.
What are they giving you?
They're giving me some rebates, like it's, let's call it $4,000 of rebates if I take their 5% financing.
Do the math.
0.
Yeah, it's a math equation, obviously.
So anybody who answered the question is right. Anybody, it doesn't matter which one you answered, you're right. If you didn't answer, you're wrong. So, what the guy, the salesman at the dealership, he could not grasp this concept. I said, listen, if you're charging me an interest rate at a certain payment, that's the same as if you're charging me 0% interest rate at a higher purchase price, right? Because it just affects the payment in such a way that in the end it's the same. The salesman couldn't get it. The financing desk lady was like, okay, this guy understands what we're doing here. These little games aren't going to work on him. Let's just pick one that works for him, right? That was kind of where she went to. So all of those things, and the way to find that out is you add up what you're going to pay in interest at the 5% rate over the course of the loan, and guess what? It equaled exactly the rebates they were giving me. So, it works out to be, the interest that it's costing you works out to be about the same. So then you're just asking yourself a cash flow question. Okay. Let me just see if there's anything else on that I wanted to talk about. Okay. So how do you put all this stuff into your life practically? What you need to do is you need to list out all of your income and expenses, like I mentioned. And then you need to determine what percentage of your income do you think you won't miss. Now, people are always reluctant to say, I'm going to put away X number of dollars a month, because they're committing themselves to something that they're not sure that they can follow, or that they're not sure that they will follow, that they don't want to follow. If instead what you do is you take a percentage of what you earn and you just slice it off before you ever let it come into your mind, then it's a lot easier to do it. And you're much more likely to succeed.
Cody, does EXP have a program like that?
Yes, we'll get to that in just a second. So if, for example, you decide that you're going to take 10% of your income and you're going to donate that to charity, I can tell you from experience that you will never miss the 10% you took off the top. If you wait till it works its way through your brain and then you pay the 10%, it's very painful. But if you just take that income, slice it off, take the 90% and live your life on the 90% and just put the other 10% off into the ether, it's not only not painful, it's quite easy to do it. I've witnessed personally many people do that thought they couldn't. So the EXP commission, I don't know what it's called, the equity program or whatever they call that, allows you to take 5% of your commission and purchase EXP stock, which is a little form of the magic money machine. And it's been a super magic money machine recently. But you can, and the best part about it is that EXP, because they want to reward their employees for closing a transaction, actually let you buy, they let you use that 5% to buy stock at a 10% discount. So you're not only taking some of your money to put into the little magic money machine, but you're also buying it at a discount. So I don't notice the difference if I get a commission check. When I get a commission check, if it's 95% or 100%, I don't notice the difference of what I'm getting if I just take that little 5% off and let them buy me that stock, especially because they're buying it for me at a discount. So, but in addition to that, you can figure out what your own income and expenses are, and then you can determine what percentage of every dollar you make are you going to use towards the little magic money machine. Now, if you're in debt, then those dollars that you're going to set aside need to go towards those interest rates that exceed 8 or 9% return on your money. And when you get to the point where you've paid off all of your debts that have an interest rate that exceeds 8 or 9% that you can earn in the magic money machine, then you have to have another conversation with yourself to decide, am I going to reallocate those now into the magic money machine, or am I going to keep paying off debt? When you get to the point where any debts you do have an interest rate much lower than what you can earn in the magic money machine, then you start allocating that money into the magic money machine. Because if you have a credit card balance that's costing you 18% and you're investing at 8% in the magic money machine, you are eroding yourself, and you shouldn't be doing it that way. You should be using that money to pay off debt first. So and here's what I suggest you do. This is what I did when I was about 30 years old that kind of changed the way I looked at money. Add up everything that you are earning, add up all of your expenses, figure out where you can live your life with, what expenses you can have in your life that give you the lifestyle that you'd like to have that's within reason. Look at what the difference is. So let's say that you earn $10,000 a month and your expenses are $8,000 a month. That's a $2,000 a month difference. Decide from the beginning what you're going to do with the money in the beginning, how much you're going to take off the top. So let's say that I decide I'm going to take $1,000 off the top, which means that in my mind, mentally, my income is now $9,000 a month instead of $10,000 a month. And I still have my $8,000 a month in expenses. So I'm going to have $1,000 that I put away to the magic money machine. Use the other $1,000 for something that really motivates you. So for some people, that is investing it in a stock that they see go way up, right? Like Joe sends me like every day, hey, look at this stock pick I made and look how good it's doing. And, like he gets value out of seeing the smart decision that he made and doing the research and putting it in. But it's not to say that that's more honorable than anything else. I know somebody who like really loves collecting these little stuffed animal things that I don't even know. Like I mentally, I can't even get it. I can't even get it. But she likes to buy these little stuffed animal things. And part of what she's allocated every month is that she gets to reward herself by buying like one of these or two of these things every month with this extra little amount that's left over there. And so if you'll take the difference and you'll discipline yourself to take off from the beginning what you're going to invest, then whatever falls out at the end of that is just your reward money. And you should reward yourself with it the way you want to reward yourself with it. So one of the things that I do is like, I really enjoy fishing. I really don't need any more fishing lures, but I still buy some every month anyway, because that's one of the things that I'm using to reward myself with having been disciplined enough to figure all of this out from the beginning. So every once in a while, what I'll do is I'll reevaluate that. Usually it's once a year. I'll say, well, how did I do? Because as a realtor, it's a little different, right? I don't have a set paycheck every month. Some months I'm like a king, and other months I'm a squirrel, right? I'm digging in the cheek to take that nut out that I'm going to use that I put in there 3 months ago. And so usually at the end of each year, I'll be like, okay, how did I do this year? Did I take that amount off the top of each, that percentage off the top of each check? And did I put it in the little magic money machine or not? And if I did all of that, then I asked myself, well, how much did I have left over? And how much of that is like reward money? And usually for me, lures relative to a lot of things are not very expensive. So usually for me, I have some of that like splurge money still left over, and it's built up to be, let's call it $2,000. I can do a nice little fun vacation with one of my kids or me and my wife or something. And so we'll take that money and we'll splurge on that. We'll use that splurge money for something that we're rewarding ourselves for having lived a certain way, a certain lifestyle. Now because realtors' income is so up and down, that concept of taking a percentage of each check and putting it away and almost blindly doing it is actually more important for us than it is for any other type that has like a regular consistent income, because you have to, you won't do it otherwise. If you wait until you say, well, I had a good month this month, but I don't have a big pipeline for next month. So then the end of next month, you say, well, I got to use last month's, then you'll end up never doing it. You've got to just pick that percentage, put it away, pretend you never got it, and then see what happens.
Cody, I just jump in on this conversation because, I've been told and I have heard throughout my career, pay yourself first. Pay yourself first. You want to become wealthy, pay yourself first. And, having been front row of the roller coaster through a couple of collapses and shifts and things like that, it's really easy to kind of kick it down the road and say, okay, I'll get to it. And yet creating that discipline, not only for that, but also setting aside money for taxes for realtors, having a percentage that comes off of each closing and moving that to a tax account and paying quarterly takes a lot of burden and pressure and stress. And the reality is, when, as you showed in the magic money machine, you don't need a lot. What you need is consistency over an extended period of time. And obviously, if you can do a lot, then great. You're going to get there faster. Your rewards are going to be stronger. So I'm just supporting your conversation on that. And by the way, that book you recommended is phenomenal. I'm my second read through it.
Nice.
Hit the title again. I was trying to put that in the chat earlier, but say the title of the book again, please.
It is called Timeless Principles of Financial Security. I told the author, I was like, whoa, that's an exciting title. But it's the perfect title for it. It's their
perfect title, yeah.
They're timeless, and they allow you to get to financial security. And I've seen people, I saw a family that went from needing charity welfare help every single month. They started putting their money into envelopes. They did the envelope budgeting method that I mentioned in the first workshop. And then they realized they had a little bit of money left over at the end. So then we came up with a plan for them of how much they were going to take out of their paychecks. The minute they got them, they were going to take those out of their paychecks. And when they started, they didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. And they hooked up with a financial planner, and they would just send him that amount of money out of each one of their paychecks every time they got it. And over the course of time, they had more and more. They disciplined themselves more and more. They started seeing the power of having put it in. They actually disciplined themselves even more so that they could put more of it away each month. They took a bigger percentage out of their paychecks. And I talked with them just recently, and they're doing amazingly well, and they have a future. So it does not take a lot of money to do it. It's not like you got to put away $5,000 a month. Like, that is a daunting thought. But if you'll just take a certain percentage of all of your commission checks, you'll get there a lot faster than if you don't put together some kind of a plan like that. Okay, that's all I got. Anybody got any questions on any of those things or comments? All right, so who is going to commit to do it? We should have everybody who sees this should be mentally committing. What are my deliverables? My deliverables are, I'm going to write out all my income and expenses. I'm going to decide how much of each paycheck, what percentage of each paycheck I'm going to put into the little magic money machine. And remind me to make a mention of how to do that. And I'm going to do that religiously each month. And let me think, what else is there? And I'm going to get that book, and I'm going to start doing it.
I'm in. Income and expenses, that's pretty simple for me. I already have that all tracked. I don't have any in my mind is bad debt. The debts that I have are very, very low interest, like on my house and stuff like that. So the return would definitely far exceed it. The percentage, which I have been doing with the EXP, made it real easy, just doing the 5% off the top. But I just told Shannon the other day that I want to take the revenue share and not even see it. It just comes in and it goes into another investment account. So, you know, as that rises and fluctuates, it's going to be its own animal going forward. That's actually what I did too, Joe. I said, okay, I'm going to discipline myself to live off of my commission checks only. And I actually take a little percentage of my commission checks to go to buy that EXP stock at a discount. And I actually decided on a little bit more than that. But then I also decided that my revenue share, to me, that's just gravy. That's like God's gift to me of being able to throw more into the little magic money machine. And so every month when it comes in, I just send that straight over to my advisor. So look, this is where I got to be careful because I can't give you guys investment advice, but I will tell you that there is an index out there. It's the Vanguard index that has a ticker symbol of VOO. And it is basically, it's an index that mirrors the S&P 500, and the management fees on it are ridiculously low, like almost nothing. So all these different funds that are out there that you can invest in, they have a management fee where they take a certain percentage off the top of all the earnings. That's how they get paid. The Vanguard VOO fund is the management fees on that one are extremely low. So if you don't want to hire a financial planner and pay the financial planner to manage your money for you, then maybe you just discipline yourself to say that extra percentage you're going to put into VOO. There are other ones out there that are like that you can look into. Maybe the S&P 500 you don't feel is diversified enough for you. So maybe you'll find an index to mirror the Dow Jones Industrial Average, or maybe you decide you want one that kind of tries to mirror the entire market. So Dow Jones and S&P and all other stocks. So there's indices out there that are basically just those funds that mirror those other indices, and so you can invest in those things. What I have found to be the easiest to do is to have a financial planner that works for me and watches that for me. And we've already got an investment strategy, so I don't have to think about that every day. I don't have to think about putting the money in. I don't have to remember doing it. I don't have to ask the question. When the check comes in, I know what percentage it is. I just transfer electronically that amount of money over to that account, and then they invest it in the way that he and I have come up with together.
Solid. Hey, I'm in. I've got a spreadsheet with all that was. I will say this: the one thing that I gave COVID credit for was super clear on what death looked like. Money was going out the door, because I wasn't sure if money was going to continue coming in the door. So yeah, I'm in. I'm definitely going to get that book, and then make a commitment to the percentage that I'm sticking in there. And I definitely appreciate this call. This is awesome, Cody.
Yeah, and if anybody puts together their numbers and they want to have me look at them with them and just tell you this is what I would do, having helped lots of people do this. This is kind of what I would do if I were you. I'm happy to help anybody one-on-one. If you want to keep those numbers all to yourself because it's none of my business, then that's perfectly fine too. But I'm happy to help anybody think it through. And I just encourage everybody, it doesn't matter what stage of life you're at, you really got to get it going. Start doing it now, and you'll be amazed at the power of time. Time is on your side for sure when it comes to money.
Hey, Cody, I was just looking up my VOO in my portfolio, and last year's acquisitions are up 46.74%. So that screws up your 9% number.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely over the long haul. I've had years where I think, oh man, what am I doing? I was down this year, right? And I've had years where I'm thinking, oh, I wish I'd have put everything in there because it was like 60%, you know. So
yeah, no, it levels out, and I agree. I think that the key point on all that is, as you said, it's time, right? If you're consistently buying, if the stocks come down but you're still buying, your dollar cost averaging your way down. If the stocks move up, well, great. You got a good higher than projected return for that period of time.
Yeah. Well, and like investment strategies can get very, very complicated. And I know I'm not that smart. You know, my favorite quote is the stock market is designed to transfer money from the active to the patient. And so I try to be as patient as I can be. And
It's awesome.
you know, you gotta be careful with you know, trading too much. And that's why I love VOO. VOO to me is when that money goes in there, I just assume I'll never even see it again. And that has performed very well over the years, and over the long run will most likely have at least an 8 or 9% return. So that for me personally, that's a really good fit. Okay, guys, thanks for being on, and hopefully anybody watching this by video will find it equally as helpful. It's good to see all you guys.
Thank you, Cody.
Great job, Cody. Thank you, brother.
Yep, take care, guys.